Welcome to US Tzu Chi 360. I'm Ginger Chang. Today we have compelling stories from central Mexico in the town of La Jolla. Although Mexico is steeped with ancient traditions, the country has been hampered with extreme poverty, social inequality, chronic drug trafficking, and high crime rate, largely due to organized crime. We're very fortunate to have Jessica with us today. Welcome, Jessica.
Hi.
So, first off, can you tell us how it was growing up in Tepic?
Well, when I was growing up, it wasn't as violent as it is now. The last few years, it's gotten pretty violent, pretty crazy. It just changed so much. It's difficult, actually. I had one of my cousins was once shopping for a car. Some people just came in cars and took him, and they were like pointing their guns at him, and then they released them. It kind of makes you wonder, like, every time you go outside, whether you're gonna be able to come back or not.
Well, it's good your cousin went home safe. Because despite the challenges, our volunteers have been there since 1994 in Mexico. And in our first segment, we're going to meet one of the local Good Samaritans our volunteers encountered. Her name is Ana Lilia, who has become the mother of the community.
Mexico, that was colonized by Spain 400 years ago. Her long history has brought her rich Indian cultures and the European charms from the classic Baroque era. Guanajuato, which is located in the central northern part of Mexico, is a world-renowned heritage site. The underground aqueducts built during the colonial era are now used as the main traffic routes through the city. Cars move under the city, while the residents use the space above for leisure. Alleys, too big for cars, wind around colorful adobe brick buildings. There is a church at every corner and a century-old statue at every turn. Not only were world-renowned artists charmed by the city's culture, the wealthy of Mexico love it also. However, a mountain city near Guanajuato has an entirely different flavor. Let's travel with local Tzu Chi volunteers as they visit La Jolla, which means jewel, but the reality is anything but jewel-like.
We are going into a very dangerous place, so it's best that we shut the windows because there's a great risk that we could be robbed.
It's hard to imagine anyone living here because La Jolla is a lawless area. The desperately poor, as well as ex-convicts, gather here. They build shelters from trash and other previously disposed materials. We were told not to film in one location for more than 15 minutes, otherwise we could be targeted. Whenever we were filming, a local volunteer always kept watch outside. Rampant with crime, poverty, and sickness, this is the environment that the locals live in. This old lady who sells candy has been living in this illegal, shabby, crooked structure for 17 years. The roof and walls are built of cardboard painted with tar. The other side of the wall is barely supported by wooden planks. Every storm is another emotional and fearful journey for her.
3 weeks ago, a very big wind blew open the roof of my house. My roof blew up like a Mexican tortilla. My grandson and I are trembling and scared every time, but I will stay here no matter what. This is my home. This is everything I have.
The everything she talks about is a hole in the ground for a toilet, a red plastic cloth for shelter from the rain, a dim light, and candies that she may or may not be able to sell.
Only one girl has come so far. She got 1 peso worth of candy.
She might make 30 pesos per day, which is about $2.50 in US dollars. After taking out her expenses, she barely makes 70 cents per day. It's difficult to imagine how they can afford food, not to mention their other daily expenses. But this candy-selling grandmother is considered to be a lot more fortunate than the other people who are living in even less hygienic conditions.
Living in such a place is never secure. The houses can collapse at any time and there is often no food for every meal. Every day she will prepare hot meals for us in the church, so the church gives us safe shelter and food. The church gives us temporary safety and a sense of security. More importantly, she doesn't discriminate. As long as you come to the church, she will give you food.
The lady mentioned by this old lady is Ana Lilia.
The food is too heavy. My back is not well, so I need to find someone to help me carry it.
For 8 years, she has been going around gathering support to feed these people. Ana Lilia took her helpers to a grocery store located 30 minutes away by car. They didn't enter the store, but drove around to the back of the store, where the bread, vegetables, and fruits were ready for pickup.
There are people waiting in the church for this food. We distribute it by household. If there are 5 housewives, they receive 5 servings. We adjust the amount of the food according to the number of people in the household.
There is a horrible stench surrounding the dumpster. For 189 pesos, equivalent to $13, a person can buy a truckload of expired food from the store. After loading the food, they quickly resume their journey. There is always someone eagerly waiting outside the church, but not all of this expired food is edible.
We first have to separate the edible from the inedible. We use the edible to feed everyone in the cafeteria and give the inedible to the animals.
Since the social welfare system can't support such a huge amount of poverty, and because the church is so severely underfunded, this food is very precious to the people of La Jolla. They never waste any edible piece of food.
This is my son. I come here to help at 8 a.m. every morning. Because I don't have a job now, the church gives my son food and milk.
This shabby church cafeteria is the only source of relief here. One middle-aged Mexican homemaker carries with her the hope of feeding an entire community.
The priest told me that they were building a cafeteria here and asked if I would like to help. I began collecting food like Mexican rice and milk from different places that we could then use to feed these poor people.
There are hot meal distributions 365 days a year. It started with everyone waiting to collect food, but eventually, Ana Lilia's dedication began a cycle of kindness in this destitute slum.
The church helps about 100 to 150 people, some of which come to help out when they are not working. Even though some of them find work later, they still come back to help serve the others.
I come and help whenever I can, by fetching water, cleaning utensils, or arranging the yard.
Everyone here has witnessed how the church grew out of nothing. Boom! And all of this came out of nowhere.
Los he desaparecido. Es bruja, pero que viene del cielo. Soy bruja.
Ana Lilia uses her exceptional level of energy to help out around the church and community.
She is like a bus, doing rounds here and there, up and down in the community.
Sometimes when my child is sick and we don't have money to buy medicine, we just knock on her door and she gives us medicine. I love everyone like my own children. I'll even nag them to behave if they cross the line.
When the children break the tree branches, she yells at them and tells them to care for the trees.
No descuiden las cosas porque todo se pierde. Es que como entran y salen, no, ciérrenle.
Frankly, she's like a mother, like my mother, like all of our mothers.
She helps whoever asks her for it. She carries everyone else's problems on her own shoulders and yet still laughs the loudest.
There has to be love. If there is no love, you can never accomplish exceptional deeds.
Ana Lilia always walks to the end of the cafeteria as the day draws to an end. She prays for strength from the Holy Mother so that she can continue to protect these people.
My birth mother gave me life, so I will always give all that I have to her. But the Holy Mother made even greater sacrifices for the people of the world. So I offer all that I have to the Holy Mother. It is what we should all be doing.
According to the UN's Office of Human Rights, the poverty rate in Latin America is at its lowest level in 20 years. Yet poverty increased only in Honduras and Mexico, which is due to food insecurity in rural parts. Jessica, can you tell us someone that you know who came to America because of that?
I do know a few people who are here who came to this country illegally. They pretty much came because they couldn't afford many things, so they got here and they go through a lot of discrimination, a lot of horrible things too. So it's funny that most of them are always talking about going back to Mexico and maybe starting up a business.
So it's like complete opposite. Then a lot of children are actually tempted because they think you can make a quick buck becoming involved in drugs and crime.
It's definitely a difficult situation to be put in. If you see your parents have been working your entire life,
right,
and they've been working as construction workers, you know, working in the fields, and they have no money, and this drug dealer comes up to you and offers you a lot of money to kill one person. If you don't have, you know, a good education and values, you're going to take that money.
Well, it's a good thing you bring that up because actually in our next segment, our volunteer, Albert Tsai, he believes that education is really important. So let's take a short break and to see the continuing efforts led by Albert Tsai.
Ana Lilia prayed to the Virgin Mary, and she received a response within a short period of time.
Originally, there was only an image of Jesus Christ, but in October of last year, an old man brought the statue of the Virgin Mary to our church and asked if we would like to have it.
Last November, we prayed to Master Zheng Yan for guidance, since we didn't know how to reach those in need.
Even though the statue was slightly damaged, we believed that the Virgin Mary had come to help us.
It was this pastor that introduced me to Ana Lilia. I talked to her twice, and she said, "Alberto, we have been waiting for people like you to do something for a long time."
A Tzu Chi volunteer from Leon, Mexico named Alberto Tsai began to take more and more volunteers into the La Jolla Mountains to visit and understand the people living in poverty there. Then, Tzu Chi, working together with the church cafeteria, planned to meet the local demand for hot food and supply distributions. When the local children see Alberto from far away, they run over happily to greet him.
Speaking of poor children and single mothers, there is a mother who is raising 6 children, all from different fathers. Unfortunately, this is common in Latin America. Single moms are often forced to uproot their families in pursuit of a source of income. There is no way for them to lead a stable life, and that is a basic social problem. It's cardboard. They were covered by asphalt. This house is full of holes. They have not changed their windows for 3 months.
This improvised 300 square foot shelter houses a family of 7, including all of their belongings, food, and waste, which combines to create an overwhelming stench. They have electricity from secretly tapping into outside sources, but no running water.
You have to shower every day, understand? Otherwise, you're going to get scalp ringworm. See? She has already begun to get it.
There are many children from single-parent families. While their mothers are out working, the children are either locked in a house or out running around. Many problems are caused by these children with no parental supervision. You look sick. What happened to you?
Although this is a public school, they still need to buy uniforms and bring food to school to eat. There are also commuting costs. These are all burdens for these poor families. The children from this mountain all learn from each other, but what they learn is bad. They all get together and do bad things. These home issues and school problems all cause problems for the local society, and this is what we're worried about. When she saw these children, she was determined to treat them as her own.
With no one to care for her and no money to go to school, this young girl must fend for herself in this perilous environment. There is a drunken vagrant just outside of the house. In La Jolla, many children have accidents and many are led astray.
In this region, many of the young people fight. Some of them began fighting when they were only about 10 or 12 years old.
The police don't show up when they're needed because they are also afraid.
In Mexico, each police car has at least 3 armed police in it, and each of them is armed with an AK-47 assault rifle. Every day, the newspaper tells of at least 1 murder, 1 kidnapping, and various robberies. The locals are used to it because they have experienced it themselves personally many times.
The newspaper said they found a woman's naked body in the river today. Now that the Mexican government is conducting an anti-drug campaign, there are often firefights between rival criminal gangs. Not long ago in Monterey, 46 corpses were hung up. Some were beheaded.
When the military police or other special forces capture the leaders of these gangs, there are often fights between the leaders' subordinates. The outcome is often unclear. When the government suppresses them, they fight back. They have guns, they have money, they have weapons, and so they challenge the government in many urban areas.
Since the President of Mexico declared war against drugs in 2006, more than 50,000 people have died from drug-related violence. The majority have come about from the seizing of territories between rival gangs. But a lot of innocent people have also become the victims of the drug lords' resistance to the government. And poverty-stricken areas are often the ideal place to recruit young drug dealers.
There's a big gap between poverty and rich. According to the Mexican media, 40% of the Mexican people are poor.
Since there is such a lack of food, many children and young people who are starving turn to drugs.
When a person is hungry and cold or unable to obtain things legally, they will often start stealing and robbing. Both of these actions carry a higher risk of getting caught by the police. However, when a person sells drugs, there is a much lower risk of being caught. In fact, dealing drugs is both more profitable and a faster way of generating income.
Early in the morning, the Tzu Chi volunteers in the city of Lyon pack boxes of hot food and fresh fruits and carefully load them into the car. This is Tzu Chi's monthly hot food distribution in La Jolla.
We try not to let these people go hungry, so we determine carefully how much we'll need. Hopefully, this will stop them from going into the drug trafficking business.
Let's see whether we should put them in the other car. We can't put the watermelon in this way, or it will be crushed.
We want them to eat the tastiest and best looking food that we can, so we cook it properly and are careful not to crush it.
Due to the carefulness of the volunteers, the fresh food that was prepared by the restaurant volunteers at 6 a.m. arrived undamaged. When the Tzu Chi team arrived, there were about 150 people waiting in the small cafeteria. For this one day of the month, they can eat food that wasn't expired or rotten. The volunteers, Chinese-speaking, English-speaking, Spanish-speaking, Buddhists and Catholics, all passed out their love along with the food.
These children, when they are 7 or 8 years old, think they can make money by selling drugs. So they get a group of friends together to do it. It becomes like a drug chain selling business. This is dangerous because all of them get sucked in. So this is an important location to do preventative education. First, we educate the adults and let the children watch and follow us. Later, these children would then help others. Only one person is needed to plant the seed in the beginning.
The merciful Virgin Mary made a promise to Ana Lilia and then gave her more than what she was praying for. By the end of this year, Tzu Chi volunteers in Lyon will have taken fresh hot food 4 times each month into the mountains to supplement the nutrition of the children and the senior citizens. In the near future, Tzu Chi volunteers from both the United States and Mexico will work together to implement a Happy Campus program, and the church cafeteria will be turned into a children's home and school. Then, the children of single-parent families in La Jolla will be able to stay off of the dangerous streets of Mexico. Once again, the headlines of local newspapers report a new murder today.
This is all about the drug lords in Mexico committing murder again in order to seize more territory. This is the most serious problem in Mexico, as the government still hasn't found a way to improve the situation. I myself have body armor in case of an emergency. However, the wisdom that I have learned from Master Zheng Yan is a much more powerful solution.
The United Nations 2011 Global Study on Homicide reports that violent crime hampers human and economic development. Jessica, can you tell us what your thoughts on about President Calderon's war on drugs?
I don't think it's being done in the right way. They started attacking the heads of the cartels. There's a saying, when you kill the head, when you cut the head, the tail's gonna destroy the city. Like, of course, they started fighting among them to get power, so now it became like a personal matter with the president, and he just says, I'm not backing down. It's like, well, you know, no one wants you to stop fighting crime, but when you have like 60,000, you know, dead people in 5 or 6 years, that's inexcusable.
Well, Jessica, thank you very much for coming here to share your story with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks.